I stood there in the pouring rain, staring at the ambulance lights reflecting off the wet pavement. The paramedics were loading him onto a stretcher, his face pale and eyes closed. It was surreal, like a scene from a movie, but this was no Hollywood set. This was my best friend Jamie, lying there, unmoving. I couldn't process it. Just an hour ago we were laughing at some stupid meme, and now he was. He was what? I didn't even know. The rain soaked through my clothes, but I didn't feel the cold. I was numb. You see, Jamie and I had been inseparable since kindergarten. We were that cliché duo everyone knew and loved. He was the outgoing, charismatic one, and I was the quiet, introverted sidekick. We balanced each other out. But lately, things had been different. I'd caught him looking at me in a way that made my heart race. There were moments when his hand would linger a little too long on mine, or when he'd hug me just a bit tighter than usual. I brushed it off, thinking it was just him being him. But now, seeing him like this, I realized I'd been lying to myself. This wasn't just friendship, at least not for me. The paramedics loaded him into the ambulance, and I snapped back to reality. I rushed forward, trying to climb in with him, but one of the paramedics stopped me. "Are you family?" she asked. I hesitated, then shook my head. I'm his best friend," I stammered. She gave me a sympathetic look. "I'm sorry, but you can't ride with us." "You can follow us to the hospital, though." I stepped back, feeling helpless. As the ambulance doors closed, Jamie's hand suddenly reached out, grasping for something, anything. It was like he was trying to hold on to stay here, with me, and that's when it hit me. I loved him. I loved Jamie, and I might lose him before I ever got the chance to tell him. I ran to my car, fumbling with the keys as I tried to unlock it. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't see straight through the tears and rain. Finally, I managed to get in and start the engine. I followed the ambulance, my heart pounding in my chest. This couldn't be happening. Not to Jamie, not to us. We had plans, dreams. We were supposed to graduate together, travel the world, open that stupid little bookstore we always talked about. We were supposed to grow old together, side by side. I couldn't lose him. Not now. Not ever. As I drove, memories flooded back. The time we snuck out to see a meteor shower and ended up getting lost in the woods. The way he'd laughed when I'd gotten my first and only tattoo, a small, badly drawn wave on my ankle. The countless nights we'd spent talking about everything and nothing, sharing our hopes, our fears, our dreams. He was my person, my constant, my Jamie. And I was only just realizing that I wanted to be so much more than just his friend. But what if it was too late? What if I never got the chance to tell him how I felt? What if he didn't make it? I shook my head, pushing the thought away. No, I couldn't think like that. He was going to be fine. He had to be, because I couldn't imagine a world without Jamie in it. Without his laugh, his smile, his stupid jokes. Without him. I finally made it to the hospital, my heart still racing. I rushed through the sliding doors, my eyes scanning the crowded waiting room. I spotted Jamie's mom, her face pale and eyes filled with worry. She saw me and stood up, her lips trembling as she tried to speak. "What happened, Alex?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I shook my head, still trying to process it all myself. "I don't know," I admitted. "We were just walking back from the park and he just collapsed." I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes again, but I fought them back. I needed to be strong for Jamie. His mom pulled me into a hug, and I could feel her body shaking with sobs. "He's going to be okay," I murmured, more to myself than to her. "He has to be." We sat down, the silence between us heavy and uncomfortable. I looked around the waiting room, at the other families huddled together, their faces etched with worry and fear. I hated this place. I hated the smell, the sounds, the feeling of helplessness that hung heavy in the air. I just wanted Jamie to be okay. I just wanted him back. A doctor finally approached us, his face serious. "Mrs. Thompson?" he asked, and Jamie's mom nodded. "I'm Dr. Patel. I've been taking care of your son." He paused, and I felt my heart stop. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. "He's stable," the doctor said, and I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "But we're running some tests to figure out what caused him to collapse." He looked at me then, his eyes softening. "You must be Alex. He's been asking for you." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. He was awake. He was asking for me. That had to be a good sign, right? I followed the doctor to Jamie's room, my heart pounding in my chest. I pushed open the door, and there he was, lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines and IVs. But he was awake, and he was smiling. That same smile that always managed to light up the darkest of rooms. "Hey you," he said, his voice weak but happy. I rushed to his side, taking his hand in mine. "Hey yourself," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You scared me, Jamie." He squeezed my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to." I shook my head, looking down at our intertwined hands. "What happened?" I asked, finally looking up at him. He hesitated, then took a deep breath. "They think it might be my heart," he said. "They're running some tests to be sure, but it's not looking good, Alex." I felt my heart drop. Not looking good. What did that mean? But before I could ask, he pulled me closer, his eyes searching mine. "Alex, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you a long time ago." I held my breath, my heart pounding in my ears. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything. Again. I leaned in, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Jamie's eyes were locked onto mine, and there was a vulnerability in them that I had never seen before. "Alex," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, I think I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air, heavy and profound. I felt a rush of emotions, shock, joy, fear, relief, all crashing into me at once. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. I was frozen, trying to process what he had just said. Jamie's grip on my hand tightened, his eyes searching mine for a reaction. "Please say something," he pleaded, his voice trembling. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Jamie, I love you too," I finally managed to say, my voice shaking. "I've loved you for a long time, but I was too scared to admit it. I thought it would ruin our friendship." He smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that made my heart flutter. "Nothing could ruin our friendship, Alex," he said softly. "We're meant to be together. I've known it for a while, but I was too afraid to tell you." Just as I was about to lean in and kiss him, the door to the room swung open. A nurse walked in, her eyes scanning the charts in her hand. She looked up and saw us, our hands still intertwined, our faces inches apart. She smiled knowingly. "I see you two have had a chance to talk," she said, her voice warm. "That's good. Jamie, we need to run a few more tests, but it looks like you'll be able to go home soon." Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The nurse's expression turned serious. "However, we need to monitor your condition closely. It's likely you'll need surgery to correct the issue with your heart." Surgery. The word sent a chill down my spine. I looked at Jamie, his face pale but determined. "I'll be okay, Alex," he said, trying to reassure me. "I have to be. We have too much to look forward to." I nodded, trying to stay strong for him. But inside, I was terrified. The thought of losing him, of not having him in my life, was unbearable. I squeezed his hand, promising myself that I would be there for him every step of the way. No matter what happened, we would face it together. As the nurse prepared to take Jamie for more tests, I stepped back, giving them space. Jamie looked at me, his eyes filled with love and gratitude. "I'll be back soon," he said, his voice steady. "Wait for me," I nodded, a small smile playing on my lips. "Always," I replied. As they wheeled him out of the room, I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. This was just the beginning of our journey, and I knew it wouldn't be easy, but as long as we had each other, we could face anything. I looked out the window, watching the rain pour down, and I made a silent promise. I would be there for Jamie, no matter what, because he was my true love, and I wasn't going to let anything come between us. The hours ticked by agonizingly slowly as I waited for Jamie to return from his tests. The hospital's sterile walls seemed to close in on me, and the constant beeping of machines became a grim soundtrack to my anxious thoughts. I paced the room, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if the surgery didn't go well? What if there were complications? What if? I shook my head, trying to push the negative thoughts away. I needed to stay positive for Jamie. Finally, the door opened and Jamie was wheeled back in. He looked exhausted but managed a weak smile when he saw me. "Hey," he said softly. I rushed to his side, taking his hand in mine. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "How did it go?" he sighed, his eyes closing briefly. "They confirmed it's a heart condition. I'll need surgery to fix it." My heart sank, but I squeezed his hand, trying to offer some comfort. "We'll get through this, Jamie," I said firmly. "Together." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. "Alex, there's something else I need to tell you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding. "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself for whatever he was about to say. He took a deep breath. "I've been keeping something from you, something big." I felt a knot form in my stomach. What could he possibly be hiding? Jamie's eyes met mine, and I could see the struggle in them. "Remember when I went to that summer camp a few years ago?" he asked. I nodded, remembering how he had come back different, more introspective. "Well, I met someone there. Someone who helped me understand a lot about myself." He paused, his grip on my hand tightening. "I realized I was gay, Alex, and I've been too scared to tell you, afraid it would change everything between us." I was stunned. All this time, Jamie had been carrying this secret, afraid to share it with me. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I should have been there for him, should have known. But I also felt a surge of love and pride. He was finally opening up to me, trusting me with his truth. "Jamie," I said, my voice filled with emotion, "I love you, all of you, and nothing will ever change that." He looked at me, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I love you too, Alex," he said softly, "more than you know." Just as I was about to lean in and kiss him, the door opened again. This time it was Jamie's parents. They looked at us, their faces a mix of concern and relief. "Jamie, the doctor told us about the surgery," his mom said, her voice trembling. "We'll be here for you every step of the way." Jamie looked at them, then at me, and I could see the gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady. "I know I can get through this with all of you by my side." I squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of determination. We would face this together as a family, and no matter what happened, we would come out stronger on the other side. The days leading up to Jamie's surgery were a whirlwind of emotions. We spent every moment together, talking, laughing and sometimes just sitting in silence, holding each other. His parents were incredibly supportive, treating me like a part of the family. It felt like we were all coming together, stronger than ever. The night before the surgery, Jamie and I sat on his bed, our hands intertwined, our hearts heavy with anticipation. "Alex," he said softly, "no matter what happens tomorrow, I want you to know that I love you more than anything." I felt a lump form in my throat, but I managed to smile. "I love you too, Jamie," I replied, "and tomorrow we'll face whatever comes our way, together." The day of the surgery arrived, and the hospital waiting room became our temporary home. Jamie's parents and I sat in silence, our hands clasped tightly, our hearts pounding with anxiety. The minutes ticked by like hours, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, the doctor emerged from the operating room. His face was serious, but there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. "The surgery went well," he said, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "Jamie is in recovery now, you can see him soon." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, and Jamie's mom pulled me into a tight hug. "He's going to be okay," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "Thanks to you, Alex, you've been his rock through all of this." When we were finally allowed to see Jamie, he looked pale and weak, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. "Hey you," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I rushed to his side, taking his hand in mine. "Hey yourself," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You did it, Jamie. You're going to be okay." He smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that made my heart flutter. "We did it," he corrected me. "Together." I nodded, feeling a sense of pride and love. We had faced the unimaginable, and we had come out stronger on the other side. As Jamie recovered, our bond grew even deeper. We talked about our future, our dreams, and our fears. We laughed together, cried together, and loved each other through it all. And as I looked at him, lying there in the hospital bed, I realized that this was just the beginning of our journey. We had so much to look forward to, so much to explore and discover together. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them side by side, because that's what true love is all about. It's about standing together no matter what. It's about being each other's rock, each other's safe haven. It's about loving fiercely and fearlessly through all the ups and downs. And so, as we embark on this new chapter of our lives, I want to leave you with a message. Love is unpredictable, crazy, and entirely unexpected. It can sneak up on you when you least expect it, changing your life in ways you never imagined. But it's also the most beautiful, powerful force in the world. So embrace it, cherish it, and never be afraid to take that leap of faith, because you never know where it might lead you. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed our story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt and inspiring tales. And be sure to watch our other videos and comment down below with your favorite part of this video. We love hearing from you and can't wait to share more stories with you. Until next time, stay true to yourself and never be afraid to love.